Finally, we want to make a last attempt to present the path of the interior temple even more vividly. With the help of the music of the great masters, you can experience the majesty of the sacred room within you. Sounds convey more than 1,000 words. Let us listen to Anton Bruckner's motet Locus Iste. Open your heart. Let us witness how a temple is being created within us and what is going on therein. The tones are building a cathedral. The soul enters the sanctuary. The soul strives upwards, but does not yet achieve a breakthrough. The soul receives streams of comfort, strength, joy, light, and love from above. Repetition. The temple arises in our heart. The soul is captured by a vortex that drags it upwards. It comes into contact with something so high, so sacred, that it cannot be expressed and only be experienced in silence. You may increase the effect of the tones upon you by following the lines of the music with your hands. The blue lines with both hands, the red lines with one hand. You may memorize this very simple piece of music and hum it to yourself from time to time, and thereby create the temple within. Finally, you can internalize it to such an extent that it lives within you without sounds, and thereby builds up a sacred atmosphere there. The beauty of your inner sanctuary must not tempt you never to leave this heavenly place. You are incarnated in order to learn, to grow, and fulfill a mission. Therefore, you must not withdraw from earthly life, but have to descend to the world during the day. All saints have left their cell in order to serve their fellow human beings. Down on earth, your ideals are turned into reality. Here, your help is needed. Don't be under any illusion. Descending to hell is essential to a life in heaven. They will ask, what kind of heaven is yours? Answer, a heaven of toil and struggle. The path of the interior temple works like this in everyday life. In the morning, in meditation, you establish the state of the consciousness living in a holy place. From this higher point of view, you descend to the material world in order to fulfill your obligations, to do your work, and to perfect yourself. You return to your homeland briefly at noon and finally in the evening. In spirit, the temple on the mountain peak from which you come and to which you want to return is always before your eyes. It is always in sight, within earshot, and within hailing distance. You continue to carry the temple in your heart, even when you are in the world. Nothing changes in your external existence. You transfigure your life by adopting a new attitude, by taking a new perspective. Up to now you thought, I live on earth and occasionally visit the other world in meditation, in sleep, or on Sundays at church. Now you look at it the other way around. Your real life takes place in heaven, in your temple. From there, you occasionally and only temporarily descend to the material level. You actually lead a double life, partly in the filth of the earth and partly in the purity of your sanctuary. In the esoteric classic Initiation, Elisabeth Heich describes how she led such a double life in Egypt, in the morning in the temple for education, and in the afternoon in the world for service in the government. The one of the 10 pillars of the practice of Agni Yoga, which we have called living in two worlds, becomes a living reality. An Agni Yogi verily lives in two worlds. We cannot emphasize clearly enough, and you must not close your eyes to this reality. Chaos begins behind the door of your meditation room. The waves of chaos are constantly threatening to inundate your world and to tear you into the abyss. The path of the interior temple means struggle with chaos. You have to defend the temple in your heart against all the hostile influences from your environment. It is a difficult exercise to live as if in heaven against all the odds. Even in the dust of destruction, one should go on building strongholds of the heart. You have to assert the spiritual reality of the temple against the unspiritual physical circumstances. You must not allow chaos to enter your inner realm. In the midst of the earthly hustle and bustle, calmness, peace, and solemnity reign in your heart. You must not allow yourself to be dragged down. You can and must uphold the spiritual attitude of a monk of an inner monastery, anytime and everywhere, even in the most terrible circumstances. The temple in the heart is impregnable if you only stay firm. Isn't the term monk outdated? It reminds me of the darkest Middle Ages. Yes, I have to admit I tend to fall back to the antiquated terminology. Maybe because in a previous life I had a happy time in a monastery. By monk of the inner monastery, I mean someone who leads a holy life in the middle of the world. The interior temple is a regime that you impose on yourself without having to change anything in your earthly situation. You continue to work in the world, but according to the higher laws of spiritual life. The new basis of your existence is an inner, a spiritual order that does not need to be externally recognizable at the beginning. You replace the monastery walls by self-discipline. This most synthesizing yoga exacts an obligation to construct one's entire life in accordance with a discipline that is externally imperceptible. If you carry the monastery in your heart, it does not matter whether the monastery building is existent or not. The unpopular term self-discipline only means you refrain from everything that disturbs the glory and dignity of your temple within. Monks used to wear cowls. Such external signs are no longer necessary today. Agni Yoga must be introduced into life, but its bearers must not differ externally from others in life. The Agni Yogi lives unnoticed. There should not be even the slightest alienation from life. You appear in the world dressed like anyone else. Inwardly, in your imagination, you are wearing the white robe of a spiritual disciple. This idea helps you to maintain your dignity and your position as the inhabitant of an inner sanctuary. We had already talked about this concept in the broadcasting The Invisible Toga. As far as you can, you saturate the world with the spirit of your temple. You follow the example of those high beings who dwell in the highest spheres of the subtle world, in heaven, and descend from there to the lower layers in order to help those thirsting for redemption. Of course, whether the sacred atmosphere of your cell, which you have created in meditation, will remain intact during the day, depends not on you alone, but also on the people who visit you. Most of them will consciously or unconsciously desecrate the holy place with their rough habits. Your inner temple will be filled not only with seekers for help, but also with fools, lechers, egotists, and even criminals. Read again the second book, An Inappropriate Meeting, of Dostoevsky's wonderful novel The Brothers Karamazov. Experience how Saint Starets Zosima has to endure the almost unbearable behavior of Fyodor Karamazov and his sons. If the power of your spirit is strong enough, you can drag the ignorant, the insolent, and the shameless into the spell of your sanctuary, and induce them to behave according to the dignity of the place. Even the evil you can envelop with this world, and thereby contribute to their transformation.